Guys, gals, and pals, welcome back to Paint and Talk episode 18. Almost at 20, which is absolutely insane. I, can't fathom getting to the higher numbers of this. When I started, I couldn't fathom getting to episode 10. But I mean, it's happening. It's gonna happen whether I like it or not. But, it's just a little crazy. As always, I hope you've had a good day since I've seen you last. I hope you had a good day. Not too, good. For today, I want to do something a little different, right? I want to kind of talk about, actually, this isn't different. This is exactly what I've done every other day, but I want to talk about a topic that's different than anything I've covered. Usually I talk about like a more philosophical topic. Today, though, I want to just talk about like some art. I wanted to talk about art that inspires me. And I think this is an interesting topic because I think art that inspires you is so strangely different than art that's like good, For example, I consider Blonde by Frank Ocean to be one of the best albums ever made. I think like that's one of those albums where if you told me this is what was voted the best album ever made, I wouldn't be mad at all. I'd actually be very happy. I think it's one of the best ever. But I wouldn't say Blonde exactly like inspires me, Maybe there's a song or two off Blonde that inspires me, but I wouldn't say the album Blonde inspires me. I think it's amazing, but I wouldn't say it's an inspirational album. On the contrary to that is an album like How I'm Feeling Now by Charlie XCX. That album is something that I don't return to a ton, and I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite albums ever, even though it's amazing, but it genuinely inspires me every time I listen to it. Movies are the same way for me, for sure, where and this is a lot of the Marvel movies are like this especially, where I wouldn't say that they are good in a lot of ways, I mean, it's pretty much a stereotype at this point to just make fun of the Marvel movies. It's a thing now, I guess, but I wouldn't say they're exactly high cinema, but they definitely inspire me more than watching The Godfather does. There was an interesting video someone made on this. I unfortunately forget his name, but he made this video being consume bad art that's at the level where you're I could do that, I could make that thing. To be honest, I kind of disagreed with the idea of the video. I think you should just consume a lot of art, because why not? Just keep, don't be oh, I should go out and search more movies that are kind of okay so I could feel they're more attainable. I kind of disagreed with that, but still, it was an interesting point of maybe that's what inspires you, is when things are at the level where you feel you could do it. Or maybe not. Maybe that's I don't think that's exactly right, because I don't think I could ever make How I'm Feeling Now by Charlie XCX, let alone Guardians of the Galaxy 2. But they're both deeply inspiring, so I don't think that's why. Maybe I just disagree with that video all in total. Because I actually don't love art that makes me feel I could do it. I think I get more inspired. I don't know, is that a normal thing? I think I'd venture to guess that a lot of the audience for this show is artists. So let me know, do you, when you're watching something that's amazing, are you competing with that, or are you competing with the other lesser thing? Because for me, I'm always using my baseline as this is good, but Picasso's better. You know what I mean? Because why would you compare to something that's kind of okay? I could go on about this forever because I think people are not nearly ambitious enough when they make art a lot of the time. It's a lot of it's just I'm trying to be an amazing, great artist, and then they're they make something and they're this is kind of good for me. And it's yeah, but critique it, you can like it. I like a lot of the paintings I've done in this series, but I can still be these are terrible, I happen to be in this weird format where I'm sharing it on the internet, even though I don't even though they're not good, so it's a little bit of a unique situation. But for the most part, I think it's okay to separate, I love this thing, but I see why this is not a good painting, and I think it came out cool here, not because of my own skill, but just because, maybe the brush ended up swerving and I thought it looked cool, So I think that's a distinction a lot of people can make. So I wonder what it is that makes art inspire me. For me, I think it's just whatever drives any sort of emotion in me, I think that's why a lot of action movies do it for me, or even just very emotional things. Because for The Godfather, a scene that inspires me is where, this is in The Godfather 2, where Michael grabs Fredo and goes like, "I loved you, Fredo." That scene, it's a really famous scene. That is something that inspires me. So I think it's like swellings of emotion that inspire me. Either way, maybe, I don't know, maybe it is important to locate. I don't know, because I know when I was able to locate what I really like in a lot of art, it definitely helped me in my own stuff for sure. Make what I consider to be good art. But for this is mainly in YouTube videos, because I think that's probably one of the few mediums where I'd say I'm like competent at creating stuff at this point in my life. And I think like maybe locating what makes me inspired in an art piece would make me more inspirational in my own art. But also, like, me personally, I don't really care about being inspirational. I care about just like making stuff I think is really good and cool. So I don't know. I guess that's just a whole separate conversation maybe. But some art that inspires me was almost a video on my channel where I talked about just like stuff I really liked. It was gonna be called Earth's Best Art. It ended up being scrapped towards the end of December, where I had some things going on and I couldn't really make videos quite like I wanted to. But either way, I think those were a lot of art pieces that maybe weren't like the best, but they definitely inspired me a lot. Or like they're what I aim to achieve, So one of them for sure is Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers by Kendrick Lamar. Crazy that I just said I aim to achieve and then followed that with Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. I don't think I could ever do that, but I think it's like some of the things about that album really inspire me, especially the aesthetics around it. I thought that was so cool, what he did with those music videos, with those songs. I remember when it first came out, it was getting, like, everyone hated it. I think now opinions shifted on it quite a bit, but when it first came out, people really like despised that album. They were like, this is his worst offering ever. And I just didn't get it because I was like, this thing is amazing. This is an amazing, amazing thing. And what I think was so interesting is, I don't think this was, I think this was in yesterday's Paint and Talk. I was talking about this, where I was like, it takes, like, you can be good and simple, but I think it takes like a really skilled hand to do that. I don't think, if I were to make a simple circle in the middle of this canvas, I could do it that well. But there are artists that do that kind of thing. I don't know if you've seen them. They're fantastic, where they will literally paint a circle with like a slight gradient to it, and it's the best thing you've ever seen. I think it takes a really skilled hand to do that. And I feel like Kendrick did that with Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, where like, especially on my favorite two tracks are Mother I Sober and Mirror, right? And on Mother I Sober, what he does so well is it's the instrumental is like kind of just like this heartbeat sounding sound with some slight piano, and I want to say it's Beth Gibbons of Portishead is the one who's doing the vocals, and that's literally the whole instrumental. It's extremely simple, and I would go as far as saying, and this might be I don't know if this is exactly accurate. I wouldn't say I'm the most like educated on what exactly would be the difference between like rapping with a certain cadence and flow and not. But the way that he delivers the song is much more normal, I think, than like, for example, on his newest album, there's this song Squabble Up, and he does it in kind of this, goofy, fun voice. It's a goofy song. He puts like, I feel like a little more exaggeration on certain parts of his voice. I think that's called a cadence. But what he does on Mother I Sober is he's almost just saying it until the end when he really swells up and starts getting intense. And like, the way he does that is just genuinely so impactful, and I think that's what's so cool about that album, is just how real he was able to make it. Like, it feels so polished yet so raw, and that's what I think is so cool, because that's something that like is almost impossible to do. I feel like that is something where it's like, this is the work of someone who's so skilled, and he even does that, I think, on his newest album. I think, to me at least as a consumer, I find it a little less impactful because it's more like they're more fun songs on GNX than on Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, where they're very emotional. But on Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, he delivers these very simple songs and makes them like fantastic. And he does the same thing on GNX, where like a chorus for a song. A great example, actually, that I'm sure everyone is aware of, is his song Not Like Us, right? The chorus of him just going like, they not like us, they not like us. I would think Like if you played that for me, if you know, my friend was like, I thought of this cool rap chorus, and he did that, I'd be like, nah, no, like don't try that. But he's able, because he's so skilled and so great at what he does, to do it in this way of like, where like it is polished, like it does work. Something that I would not think to work, a very spoken chorus of just like the same line, I wouldn't think that would work, but everyone screams it. Everyone knows that, you know? That song's amazing for a ton of reasons, I think. I mean, you know, his writing on that's just like really fun and cool. Like obviously is those lines everyone quotes, which I'm not gonna do here out of fear of coming off as the single whitest human being ever to live. But, you know, he does that, it's really great. And I think maybe that's kind of, if I'm going through these pieces and trying to figure out what about them inspires me, I think maybe that's what inspires me about Mr. Man on the Big Steppers, is how he manages to do it in such a polished, simple, and raw way. It almost feels like minimalist for some of it. I will say, I think, you know, like the song Count Me Out, another great song on the album, I think that one's one that people tend to really like. That's definitely not quite as minimalist. But then if you go over to like even Mirror, it's a very simple song, you know? So I think that's what inspires me about that, is how masterful it happens to be. And in my opinion, I find it to be his most like emotional album, I think, or his most vulnerable for sure. And he manages to like do it in, you would think that the most emotional would take the most words or the most music or the most like intensity to get across, you know, because the most emotions are coming through. But him making it the most simple, or what I find to be the most simple in a lot of the songs, of course I'm, you know, generalizing here, what I find to be the most simple is like kind of an interesting thing that I think only he could do. He did it completely his way. So I think that's maybe what I find so inspiring about that. He's someone who I find inspiring just for so many reasons, you know? And I think ever since the beef this year, I feel terrible even saying that, or not this year, the beef last year, now it's 2025. I feel weird even like saying it just because of like how over-analyzed that space became. Like I feel like I've seen 2 million videos going like, ever since the great hip-hop feud of 2024, and it's just like the most AI-generated script with the most AI-generated voice speaking over a video essay, which I understand the irony that I make video essays and I'm making fun of this right now. I try not to do that. Sometimes it happens, like sometimes that's just the name of the game, you say something and you sound like that, but like I really try to not make my stuff as quite as basic as a Kendrick Lamar and Drake video essay, because of just the way that they manage to be like the most monotone, the most boring. It's terrible. They're the worst thing on earth. The same thing actually, now that I'm on this tangent, the same thing with the Mr. Beast genre of video essay, of like talking about the Mr. Beast controversy, and like everything is just like, the Mr. Beast controversy is crazy, and it's like a new guy who they found on the streets of, you know, Detroit was just like, oh, I met Mr. Beast once and he said hi, it was really nice. Like they find the most random guy in the most random place that has nothing to do with Mr. Beast, and they're just like this guy has so much to say. I could go on for days about that. And I think I also fall into the trope, unfortunately, of saying nothing sometimes. But I will never say as little as a Mr. Beast drama video essay, because those make me so mad. That is not art that inspires me, is Mr. Beast drama video essays. Mr. Beast videos, though, every now and again, they're really good. I want to hate especially because like it's the popular thing to do, but like sometimes a Mr. Beast video is really good, and I hate to say it. Something I didn't find to be great was the Beast games. That felt a little weird. I haven't watched all of it though, so I won't speak on it. Back to art that inspires me. Kendrick Lamar is someone who definitely inspires me, and it was in the big, you know, the hip-hop feud of 2024, just like the way that he went about it and was able to do it in such this interesting way. Obviously, look at me, I was not alive for like Biggie and Tupac, their beef. That's like, I think, I would probably say like the most famous of all of them. Definitely wasn't around for that. But like, it's what I imagine the excitement of back then must have been like when like Hit 'Em Up came out. And that's like such a good song, you know? And like the fact that he could bring that back for all of us now, like that energy of like this really huge thing that everyone's into, and just, I don't know, everything about that was so interesting. And again, it felt like the kind of thing that could only be done after decades upon decades of like really honing a craft, you know? So I think that might be, there were kind of 2 points in there. One, what inspires me about Kendrick is just how skillful, how much of like a genuine master he is of a writer. And 2, how well he was able to execute his most emotional work in such a simple way. And you know, that's what's so interesting about inspiring art, I think, is like, maybe, and I know I'm kind of trying to figure that out in this, so I won't say this is like a blanket statement, but oftentimes it's the most strange things about something that will inspire me, you know? For an example, Sandman, which is this amazing comic series by Neil Gaiman. If you haven't read it, Neil Gaiman has turned out to be quite the terrible person from what I've been hearing and reading. I'm not on the internet enough to know the full scale of things, but I heard some things from some friends I really need to look into. So for now, I'll stay away from it because I don't know anything. Doesn't sound good from what I'm hearing. I'm not here to give cultural commentary, and I would never. I do that every episode. I don't know why I'm saying that. I don't know. I don't want to get into stuff like that though. But from what I'm hearing, not a great guy. Gotta say that before I go into this series, which is a fantastic series. No matter what I'll say, you know, it's a fantastic series. And a series that has inspired me since I was younger, you know? And what's so interesting about Sandman is basically the plot of Sandman is there's these 8 dark gods who are called, oh my god, this is so terrible, they're slipping my mind now, but the Endless, they're called the Endless. They're these 8 dark gods, and the main story follows the Sandman, Morpheus, who is Dream, the god of dreaming, pretty self-explanatory. He's not the Minecraft YouTuber Dream. Another guy that we probably shouldn't go into here, because it sounds like he's not doing the best at the moment either, which I really don't want to get into any of that right now, because I've only heard things from friends, right? But he's one of the dark gods, and it follows this family of the dark gods. And I think that's something that I've always found so interesting, is like made mythology of like, this is the mythology of like a fake place or something, you know? That's why I've always liked the Thor movies or like things like that, you know? And these 8 dark gods really inspired me. So it's so interesting how like there's this series that's a great series written by a terrible guy that can manage to be like, it's so, everything about it's so good, but only this one super specific kind of somewhat inconsequential thing inspires me about it. I think that's such an interesting area there of that. And it's so sad that now he has besmirched his own work by making us have to say that every time that anyone mentions it. But yeah, it's so cool to me how like a small concept can be like the most inspiring part about something, you know? Or like a small little detail. I've heard of like people who are inspired by like a word, and that's all it takes for them to just run off and make the coolest thing ever. And well, I can't do that, and you know, I wish I could. I don't know, I think that's what's so interesting about art, is like it's such a facet of our brains, and since our brains all work so differently, you know, coldest take of the year, we get to have these interpretations that not only radically vary, but like are full-on different things. That's also another reason why I love comic books so much, is because what they do in comic books is like they have different writers come on to the same character. Just in case you're not too familiar with comic books, they have different writers come on to the same character. It's like Greg Capullo will write 50 issues of Batman, which would be a really long run, but he'll write 50 issues, then he'll go off the book and go write Superman, and then Todd McFarlane will come on and write the next 12 issues of Batman. You know, it gets traded off through different writers. And at first I think sometimes there is friction, because sometimes, like, for example, you'll really like the last Greg Capullo run, and then another artist gets on there, and like they kind of make it a little bit just worse, to be honest, like just not as good. And so like sometimes there are definitely issues that come along with it, but you know, what's so cool about it is you get to see such a different interpretation of that stuff. And that's why, like, I don't know, you can't copy art. Like, if you could, I wonder, I mean, you can't, obviously you can copy art, and it's a great way to learn. But like, you can't, like, I can't remake Dracula and put it out to the public. Okay, that was another terrible example, because I think it's in the public domain. I can't remake The Lion King and put it out into the public, unless I'm a major corporation stealing from Osamu Tezuka. I can't do that, right? But like, if I could, we'd have so many different interpretations and like amazing ideas around that story and like what you could do with it, you know? Because like, for an example, someone who's really political might have a great statement to make with The Lion King about kings and queens and how they function, you know? Someone who's totally just into like family stuff would probably write something a lot closer to the original Lion King, which is very family centered, you know? So I think that's why, like, it'd almost be cool if intellectual property didn't exist, which, you know, I don't think, not that I'm saying that should happen. Like, imagine if it didn't, all the things we could do with it. I guess that's kind of why the public domain exists, but companies get around that, so it's like, maybe we just got to reform that. Anyways, that's a tangent. Other art that inspires me is definitely, speaking of Osamu Tezuka, The Buddha and Blackjack by Osamu Tezuka. I'll go with Blackjack, because I think that one inspires me more. Osamu Tezuka is, if you didn't know, a manga artist. He makes the cartoons, the anime cartoons with the big eyes, and they do the anime stuff. He's the biggest guy in that. He, in the 60s, started writing those, and he wrote over 700 series. Astro Boy is probably his most famous thing, where he just made Astro Boy and like got the cartoon made, and like, he's called the godfather of manga for a reason. He did a lot of really great stuff, right? None of the anime you like would be around without him. He's a really cool guy. Totally recommend reading a lot of his stuff, or just any of his stuff. And he has this series called Blackjack that's really great, and Blackjack's about a doctor. This doctor is like he's like, I guess you could call him a black market doctor, but he's also like, he's not working for mobsters or anything. He's just like not a registered doctor. I think it's been so long since I read it. I think like it's been so long since I read it, not read it. I think like the reason he can't get a license is because of how scarred his face is. Like, he's like disfigured because of an accident. But I don't remember the exact reason why. I don't know, but he's just the coolest guy ever. He's the best doctor on earth without a license. So he travels around doing these operations, and what he'll do is he'll go to like a super rich family and fix up their son for like $1 billion, so he can go back to like, you know, poor areas and help people who don't have access to those things. And sometimes I think this is a great example of just being inspired by something that's just like plain cool. You know, he's just the coolest character. He's mysterious. He has aura, which I can't believe I just said, but like, he's one of those guys. You know what I mean? Like, those guys are just really cool. He's one of those guys. And I think Osamu Tezuka is really strong at doing that, where he like sometimes won't have the best stories, but like, he knows how to make something that's just really awesome. Alabaster is another great example of this, where it's a series about this guy who is ugly. Like, his skin is clear so you can see all his veins and he looks like a monster. And that's why it's called Alabaster, because he's like translucent. And he wants to make a giant ugliness ray to make the whole world ugly. And terrible series. It's the worst. I gave it 3 stars, but I loved it because it's so like, just like, one, fun, like, it is just something fun to read, but it's also like, what if, you know, like, what if, that's a great way to analyze, you know, what if you got to a place where you felt so, like, you were, oftentimes when people are like really pushed down like that, they just want to get it out in any way possible. Like, this guy has the idea of getting it out in the exact same way. He wants everyone to feel what happened to him. And I think that's so interesting as a character, because it's almost like he doesn't want he doesn't want to make people's lives worse, right? He doesn't want to make everyone be dead or anything like that. Like, he doesn't want to go out and explicitly do harm. He just wants everyone to look like him so they could like have some empathy, like walk a day in his shoes, you know? And like, isn't that such an interesting character of like, almost he has like this like Hammurabi's code of like how he wants to exact his revenge. And like, that's just so interesting. And that's what inspires me about that. It's a literally maybe a 2-volume series. It's so small, it's so short, but like, it's so inspiring to me just because of this one character, this one concept. You know, like, you could apply that to a lot of different characters. Like, what if someone wrote a Batman story where the Joker wanted to release this gas to make everyone just crazy like him? Not because he wants to harm them, just they could see the world how he sees it, you know? Like, I think that'd be such an interesting story. And I think, like, doing stuff like that is, like, why, you know, we need to, I guess, release IP laws. Anyways, I think I might do this again in the future. Probably not, you know, tomorrow or anything, or maybe tomorrow. I'll never say never. But I definitely want to do more stuff like this of talking about art that inspires me. I think, though, there's two issues with this, just, like, if I'm being honest, after doing it for the first time. One is that it's sometimes too niche. Like, this isn't in a format where I can throw up the art I'm talking about. So, like, unless you're, like, really actively listening, and, like, searching up all the stuff as I say it, you're not gonna see it, you know? And I don't want to start editing these paint and talks. That kind of removes the purpose. And then on the same page as that, like, if you're not into every single thing I'm into, which no one is, then you're gonna be like, what is he talking about half the time? So there's definitely some issues with it, but if I could come with, like, a more formal list of very popular works, I could say, like, deeply inspire me. I think maybe if I have a list beforehand, I never script these or have even bullets for them. So, like, if I could do something like that, I think this could be really cool. But anyways, I hope you still got something out of it at the end of the day. Comment down below what art inspires you, because maybe it'll inspire me too. Maybe I can find something really cool in there. You guys know the drill. As always, head over to the Instagram. You'll see this straight on, no filters, nothing else about it. It's just the city with the other city and a little explanation of what I was going for and what it means. And until tomorrow, what to do?